Welcome back to our lesson on item analysis. We're going to be continuing today. However, let's do a quick recap. So we established in our previous lesson that item analysis is the process of examining students' responses to individual test items in order to assess the quality of those items and consequently the test on a whole. We also looked on interpreting the data, and we focused on the difficulty index. We established that this index ranges from 0% to 100%, and it measures the percentage of students who answered the item correctly. So today we are going to be looking on the discrimination index. In our previous lesson, when we looked at qualities of a good test, we said that a test must discriminate. A good test must discriminate. By that we mean the test must differentiate between those low performers and high performers. If the same number of high and low achievers make the correct response or incorrect response, then that suggests that the item might be too easy or it might be ambiguous or not clear. So the discrimination index, unlike the difficulty index, it ranges from 0 to 1. So it is a decimal as opposed to a percentage. And the discrimination index measures how well an item is able to distinguish or differentiate between examinees who are knowledgeable and those who are not. So a good item will have a positive discrimination, and by that we mean more students in the upper group or the high performers will select the correct response. However, if more of the low performers select the correct answer, then there might be a question of ambiguity in that item. So the formula for the discrimination index is RU, here representing the number of test takers in the upper group, minus those test takers in the lower group, and then we are going to divide that by half of the total number of test takers in the group. When you get your number or your discrimination index, in order to understand or to interpret what the index means, if you get a number from 0.4 and above, so that's 0.4, 0.5, 0.6, etc. to 1, then that suggests that it is a very good item in terms of discriminating or telling you who are your high performers and who are those low performers. If you get a number from 0.3 to 0.39, then it's a good item, but it might need some improvement to make it a very good item. If you have 0.2 to 0.29, then it is a fair item or average item, and this would usually need some form of revision or improvements to be made. If the index falls below 0.19 or 0.19 and below, then it's a poor item and it needs to be either discarded from the test, never to be used again, or improved for future use. So to make things easier for you, we are going to represent the discrimination index on a number line to give you a visual representation, and we're going to label the number line to show the range where poor, good, and very good items would fall. So this is your number line from 0 to 1, and to complete your number line, this would be, you would have 0.1, 0.2, 0.3 straight up to 1. So a number from 0.4 from this point upwards would suggest a very good discrimination item. So 0.4 is your starting point for a very good item. However, from 0.4 between 0.39 right at this point here and 0.3, you have a good item in terms of discrimination. If the scores fall between 0.29 right at this point to 0.2, we are going down towards 0, then you have an average discrimination or fair. But below 0.19 from this point to 0 downwards, then you have poor discrimination, meaning the item does not adequately tell you who are your high performers and who are your low performers. So it's not discriminating. All right. So before we go here, the question was asked, what would a discrimination of 0 mean? If an item has 0 as the discrimination index, that would suggest that there is no discrimination at all. The item cannot adequately tell you who are your high performers and who are your low performers. However, if the item has a discrimination index of 1, then we know that it is perfect in terms of telling you who your high performers are and your low performing students are. So let's do some calculations. So the question says, calculate the discrimination index of the question given in task 1. That's the question we did in our face-to-face class on difficulty index. So we are going to go to that item and we are going to work it out. Now it also says that we should tell if the item adequately shows which students are knowledgeable and those who are not, and why. All right, so let's look at the question again. The question says Mrs. White gave a multiple choice test to her class of 30 students. After scoring all the papers, she ranks them and was analyzing the items and how students responded to item number 5, and she discovered the following. So the first thing you would have done, of course, is to complete your item card, and it would look something like this. So let's go back to our formula down here, which says RU minus RL over half times N. So let's go to our working out page. So we are going to take from our question, we know that C is our key and 10 persons from the upper group chose the item and 4 from the lower group. So let's put that in our chart here. So 10 students, upper, lower, 4 students. So we know 10 minus 4 equals 6. Now N, the total number of test takers was 20, right? So we would take half of 20, and we know that half of 20, if we should split 20 into 2 equal parts, we would get 10. So that is our equation. So we have 6 over 10. If you should put that in your calculator, 6 divided by 10 gives us 0.6. So 0.6 is our discrimination index. And what does that tell us about our item? We know that from our number line, anything that ranges from 0.4 and upwards suggests very good discrimination, and our item would fall 0.6 right here. So it is a very good item in terms of discrimination. So to answer part B, where it says, do you think this item adequately shows which students are not knowledgeable and those who are not? The answer is yes, because the index suggests very good discrimination. Right, so let's talk about distractor information. If distractors are plausible, they should attract attention. And by distractors, we mean the wrong answers in the multiple choice. If they are good distractors, then those who are not knowledgeable should be selecting it. We should examine any distractor which no one chooses. If nobody chooses this a particular distractor, then it suggests that it is obviously a wrong answer and we should revise it. A distractor should attract more people from the lower than the upper group. If it does not, it is ambiguous. So, whether you decide to retain or keep an item or revise it or throw it out completely, it depends on the item difficulty and the item discrimination and also the distractor information. So let's look at these. Let's look at the distractors in this question to see if they are working or not. Is A working as a distractor? It's not working too well because nobody from the upper group chose it. However, because two persons chose it from the lower group, it might be doing its job. D is also working because three persons from the lower group chose it, but B, only one person chose B, which would suggest maybe it is very it would need some revision to make it a little bit more plausible in terms of distracting those who are not knowledgeable. So, to answer this question where it says, what would you suggest to be done with this item? Keep it for future use, revise it, or discard it? I would say I would keep it for future use, but maybe revise look at the distractors to make them a bit more plausible. So before you go on to completing the worksheet, here's another item. This would suggest that distractor D is not working. C is the answer. D is not working because no one from the lower group chose that answer. And it may suggest ambiguity because you have four persons from your upper group choosing it. So it's attracting more of the high performers than the low performers. So this is not a good distractor. B is also not a good distractor because you have both persons from the upper group and lower group choosing it and you have an equal amount, so this is not a good distractor. It's not working. A might be working, and so the decision to be taken would be to maybe discard this item because C is the answer and more persons from the lower group are choosing the answer. So it might suggest that there is ambiguity or something in the question that is throwing off your high performance. So this item may be, if you look at the discrimination index, which says 0.3, negative 0.3, would suggest that it is a very poor item. Very poor item because it is below 0, it's negative. So this item would need to be discarded or revamped in a big way before it is reused. So you're going to complete this worksheet, pause the video, look at the items and complete these 5 questions for our next class. We will go through this in our next class. Please come with your answers.